Right. Clap one on three.
Yeah, I'm coming. There we go.
One, two, three. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash, and as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostess, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've really talked to somebody in over almost a week.
That explains why our dick around was longer than usual.
Yeah, we just chatted for 2 hours, folks. It's a
Hmm.
gift and a curse, It's a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
No, I have been so impossibly sick.
Mm.
I there was a day I slept for I think 13 hours.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. That's always a giveaway for me. Because as
Yeah.
I've gracefully aged, I can't sleep as long as I used to. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, ooh, I
Mm-hmm.
got a full 8 hours. What a gift to me. Um,
Sure.
that's where I'm at. So when I woke up and I was like, what time is it? And I was like,
Hmm.
what day is it? Show me a calendar.
Of
That's when I
course.
was like, you're very sick. But I mean, I technically knew before then. It was one of those things where I had been having a bit of a sniffle, but it wasn't crazy.
Sure.
Kind of, I was taking it easy. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. I was feeling better. And I did my concert in Oshawa. And it was as soon as I was done, I was like, I don't feel right. Like, I was
Mm.
like, my voice went, and I was like, that's weird. And then I was like, did I strain? Like, I don't think I was straining. That's weird.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I gotta go home. And I immediately was just like, I don't feel good. I'm tired. I gotta go home. Like, I was just like, I slept on the van ride home. And when I woke up the next morning, I was in absolute hell. And it
Mm.
was truly, I couldn't talk at all. I couldn't breathe. I woke up because I stopped breathing because there was so much fluid.
Right. Oh,
It was
yeah.
choking me, which is disgusting. But I very sadly had to cancel my concert in Belleville, which was truly heartbreaking for me. I mean, it's my
Right.
hometown. I was so excited about it. Um, yeah, it was one of my friends actually in LA messaged me and she's like, "You canceled your concert?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You pushed through everything. This must be really bad." And I was like, "Thank you for seeing me. Yes, I do
Ah!
push through everything. And yes, this
Mhm.
is really bad." I think too, the listeners, if you've been with us for some time, you'll know I had COVID in the summer, and I
Right.
think it messed my immune system because there has been a couple of times since then I got sick again, then I got sick again, then this sickness morphed. I
Right.
I don't, yeah, I guess much like
Mm.
the lady on TikTok who's eating nothing but raw onions. Tell me, folks, if you're also getting that content. She's eating everything in onion cups. Anyway, Vidalia's doesn't matter. I've been ill and only entertaining myself with my phone. But the point is
Yep.
this: I gotta do some real work on fixing this immune system. So that's my next goal. But like even now, it's been a week. It's been 7 full days.
Sure.
And my voice is fine, but it's like I still feel it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I'm
Mm.
not 100% there. There's still that tickle there.
Right.
It's a nightmare.
I'm so sorry.
I know. And for those who are listening who are wondering, we're trying to reschedule the Belleville show. I cannot guarantee it. There is so many moving parts that are absolutely beyond my control. Um, so just know that obviously it was never my intention to inconvenience anyone. I mean, I cried for most of that day, which was also difficult because
Yeah.
when you're that sick and you're also crying,
Yeah.
it's a mess. It's a mess. But doing the best I can. And listen, today's Thursday. My next concert is on Tuesday,
The day this releases.
the day this releases.
Yeah.
I will not be leaving my home because I cannot risk. I'm basically Jake Gyllenhaal, the boy in the bubble. Like I'm literally like I am committed. I was like I cannot
Hmm.
leave the house. Like there's no way. Because again,
Of
even
course.
now, I mean, I've been to a doctor. I've had antibiotics. Like I've had no nasal sprays. Like we've been through it. even now, I'm like, I'm still not 100%. And I'm like, that's when the next one gets you. I cannot leave this house until the day of that
Sure.
show.
Sure.
I have to do an interview the morning before. I literally am planning to put on a mask to go to this interview, keeping it on, take it off for the 5 minutes I'm on camera, and then literally put it back on and get back to the house. Like
Sure.
I Howard Husing it at this point.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna be making
Hmm.
shoes out of fucking Kleenex boxes before we're getting too far. But anyway,
Hmm.
I'm so determined to be well for that show.
Of course.
It's yeah. Anyway,
Look, if nothing else, you like kind of looking for things to do to keep you in your right mind in the last week. I feel pretty good about some of my voice notes because there were days where I was like, I've sent too many. I need to slow down. And then you were just like, I can't respond in a voice note because I can't speak, but I can hear your voice notes. And I just went nuts.
oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Literally, without exaggeration,
Mm.
I don't think I had a voice for almost 5 full days.
Oof. Hmm.
It's also becomes crazy making because you're like, how can I not talk? Like this is crazy.
Mm.
Your voice notes are always a gift. And yeah, she'll be like, "Oh, you don't need this." I was like, "Don't need this." I
Yeah, that's how I tend to
literally
start them is you don't need this.
And the answer is you're damn wrong. I would never normally tell you you're wrong. Guess
Mm.
what? You're out to lunch. Of course I need them. I need all of them. And yeah, I think the big thing was is I was like I can't physically move. Like I'm literally
Mm.
the only time I'm moving is to get up and layer to take this dog outside to pee.
Oh, that's
That's
gonna
it.
be a nightmare. Yeah.
That's it. That was awful.
Yeah, I get
That
that.
was awful. Yeah.
I get that. I
And she
just,
was very concerned.
oh,
Those
sure.
first couple of days, she didn't leave me. She was not that she normally does, but like she was very like she didn't eat.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. She was like,
Sure.
you are not okay.
Yeah, this sounds similar to me last year at Christmas when I was just like,
Right.
I've got nothing. I went out the hoot nanny and then I was done. I was lucky to make it to the hoot nanny and then I was out. I was like, this is it. And I don't think we recorded that late, but I we had a Christmas planned with my in-laws that we had to postpone from Boxing Day to sometime in January because I was like I was not fit for it.
That's right.
And so
That's
yeah,
right.
I get it. I get it.
Ugh.
My biggest complaint is when I'm that unwell, I'm like, oh, I guess it's kind of time off, so I want to just lay around and read. But when I'm that unwell, I'm like, I can't focus on books. Like it's just not who I
No.
am. Like I fell asleep watching The Holiday last year, and that always has me in its like grips.
Oh
So
yeah.
the idea that I fell asleep during it last year, I'm like, oh, I was unwell.
Yeah. It's also I had some friends checking in on me and they were like, "Have you been binging anything great?" No. Absolutely not. Yeah, is this
Hmm.
an amount of time I could spend starting a classic television show that I've never seen, like Breaking Bad? Of course. Of
Sure.
course it is. What did I choose to do instead? Literally scroll TikTok as though it's
Yep.
a TV channel,
Yeah.
or what station, whatever you want to call it, and then just put on Dateline on a loop.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, there's something for me I find comforting about the cadence, especially of Keith Morrison. There's something
Sure.
about the sound of it. If I'm cleaning my home, for example, I like the sound of Dateline specifically. It's like how when I go to a hotel room, I want the sound of the Kardashians reality show or nothing else. I don't need to watch it any other time, but if I'm in a hotel room, there's something about that tone that just it numbs the brain. And for me, Dateline, I like it as white noise. So this
Why
is
not?
actually I in a like fever dream, I was like, I gotta do something productive. So I literally was watching Dateline and then I decided I was like, just take notes on it. So I literally took notes sick through a
Hmm.
Dateline episode. And I've informed Christy that for one of our Patreon episodes, I'm just going to, I have not opened it again. So I've not edited anything. I've not
Hmm.
spell checked anything.
Hmm.
And I'm also better now. So I'm also like, who knows? Who knows what that thing is? So we're going to do that over on Patreon.
I
I
can't
think it'll
wait.
probably come out next week, that episode. And I'm really looking forward to, was I a genius or was I out of my mind? The line between the two, very faint.
I couldn't be happier.
Yeah,
I love this for you. I look, you needed a task because
I did.
sometimes if you're just laying there, it gets sometimes you're like, I need something.
Yeah,
And so I completely get that.
yeah,
It makes sense to me.
yeah.
It
Anyway,
just sucks that you had to go through it to be able
yeah,
to get to, you
it
know.
was the canceling of the concert that was like, I
Mm,
am circling the drain.
yeah, I get that.
And listen, I'm not going to belabor it. Did I get a few shitty messages? I did. I understand people are disappointed. I was just like, and I was gonna write back and then I just didn't because I was like, you're not in your right state of mind, Lauren. But
Sure.
like what I wanted to say was like, why on earth would I want to do anything other than the one thing that brings me more joy than anything else in the world?
Yeah,
Like, no, I know you're disappointed and that's very meaningful to me, and I deeply, deeply apologize. Just know you're not more upset than me. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah,
It's impossible, actually. So, and I'm not negating feelings. I'm just saying no one is more invested in that show than me.
of
So
course.
trust me, if you're upset, I'm upset like you are times 100. Trust me.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, the feeling of you've let everyone down, it
mm.
weighs on me daily. It's,
We were raised in a very specific generation
yes.
that got a lot of stuff put on us and a lot of expectations were laid upon us that we grew up with. Oh, we're in charge of everyone's feelings. We're not.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a lot of that. It's, you know, you
I
have to
think that is
do.
a very millennial, elder millennial experience. I think that's very
Mm,
common for sure. And then I'll also just add that you and I both run anxious, so I think that doesn't help.
oh, yeah. Yeah, I think anxiety hasn't helped at all. Um, but I did hear that millennials are the first generation that have to parent both our children and our parents
Oh, that's interesting.
because it's like parenting your own children, but then it's like helping parents figuring out like new technology and how to not get scammed and like all the things of like helping out parents. And it's, yeah, our generation really got a kick in the face.
We're the transitional
I
year. Yeah,
think.
or the transitional zone for sure. I think the people they talk about that like because we millennials like we were born before the internet. Like we were
Right.
not born before, but like we were fully functioning children before, and that we've seen both sides. I do think that that is a
Yeah.
weird place to be.
Oh, 100%. Like, again, I think of like it's all the stories people tell of like, well, when I was a kid in the summer, we were told, leave the house, come back when it's dark. If you need a drink, there's a hose. Whereas now it's like, oh, my kids have a mini fridge in the garage. To be clear, it's specifically the college son.
Right.
It's his mini fridge he uses in his dorm, and we store it in the garage over summer. And it was this year that I finally went, if we're storing it in there already, why don't we just plug it in and then put drinks in it so that the kids don't have to, while they're outside, they don't have to come in and then all of that, especially when I'm working. And it was nice.
That is nice.
It was nice. They loved having that fridge.
They also say that's a real white person thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Having a second fridge or having a garage
Yeah,
mini fridge. Yeah.
yeah. And look, we wouldn't have it if it wasn't for
Yes, of
someone
course.
needing one for school. So I was very happy. I mean, he's lucky to have that. I say that he does every year he has to lug that to his room, back down to the car, drive it home at the end of the year, and then drive it back
Oh,
next
he's
year.
strapping.
Oh yeah, he can figure it out. He's got this.
He's good. He's it's like a CrossFit workout.
Oh yeah,
Does he listen to the show? Did we talk about that
I'm
detail?
I don't believe he does. He
Because I know
tells other
he's been
people to.
promoting it, which is much appreciated.
He does. Anytime anybody, like, they don't even have to say like anything about a podcast. They just have to simply say like something as benign as like, "Oh, so I'm going to be driving home this weekend. It's going to be a long drive." And he'll be like, "You know what you should do on a long drive? You should listen to True Crime and Cocktails." And I'm like, I don't even ask. I've never once asked him to do it. He just automatically does it.
It's very sweet. We should get him business cards made. He's our official hype man. He's our Flava Flav.
Oh, and then we're going to get all the university kids
Yeah.
who don't know who Flava Flav is.
Yep.
That
Well, I
makes
think they
sense.
probably also don't use business cards anymore, right?
I mean, maybe we should have some sort of app and they can just scan the like a QR code and they just scan it and away they go. I don't know how these things work. I
Yeah.
tried to get an app the other day um, to help me identify trees. And I'm gonna say it didn't really work out. And it's just because I got cheap. And every one that I found was like, you can do your free trial starting now, but you're gonna need to put in a credit card because after that you're gonna have to start paying all these amounts. And I'm like, but how does it work? And then one site I went to put my photo in, and they were like, you have to answer all these questions before we narrow down what kind of tree it is based on your photo. I'm like, that's not how I want this to work. I want to pick up a phone and go click and then go, what kind of tree is this? And then the app or the internet or something goes, it's a this. And I go, thank you very much. And then I can move on. But I got to one site and it was like, how many points are on the leaves? I'm like, I'm not that close. I'm literally like, I'm across the street. I'm looking at it from afar.
I guess what I have to follow up with,
Why am I looking at trees?
no,
Oh, okay.
not why are you looking at them?
Why do I care their names?
I guess it's just new to me
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
So is this a thing
Mhm.
now? Like, is this a, like, are you becoming an arborist, an arbor enthusiast?
Oh, oh, sure. No, um, I I think 2025 is just like my nature year.
For a woman who's self-described as indoorsy, please continue.
Oh, oh yeah, I've called myself a shut-in many times. Um, it's just when I started doing unboxings outside of my home, I
Yes.
started them like in the car, and then I was like, well, I need a like a photo, like a background that's like fun to look at. And then I started doing out of the car ones, which started to involve statues, which I was in love with. And then I became in love with ducks.
I
And so I,
remember
and
that.
then I was like, ducks are still very high on my list of things that I love. Um, and then I was like, I'm gonna do more unboxings like out like in the car because it's getting colder. I want to stay in the car. And so then while I was out, I was like, I should find something nice for backgrounds. It would be much less stress if I literally just found a space I could park and didn't care what was in the background, but I care. So then I started finding like fun trees. And I was like, look at this beauty. And then next thing I know, I'm like, I should find out what these are called because my brain tells me if I'm going to show something, I should educate about it because my brain is always number one, right? To you should entertain and educate. To me, because of how we grew up, those two things are intertwined.
You have an obligation. I get
Yeah.
it.
LeVar Burton, Mr. Rogers, Mr.
Yeah.
Dressup, Sesame Street, Miss Frizzle. They all taught me if you're going to educate and entertain, you do them together and they won't even realize they're learning. And so if I don't know the name of a tree, I feel bad. And so then I was like, I should learn what it is, but I don't have time to try and like research what kind of tree it is before uh, recording the video. So I just take a guess and I don't know trees. But now I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna learn. You never stop learning.
And that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah. And look,
Yeah.
will I say, having done like looking, doing some of these, having some of these trees in my background, going around, driving around, looking at them, I now find I look more at like trees and nature while I'm out. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. And
How
then
beautiful.
at least half the time it ends with, well, there's no good place to park there. So it might end up, I may be out of the car for more field trips next year. But look, it's a fun time. All I want is like, I love trivia stuff so much. So I just want to learn new things. It's a sickness. Like, you can also just sit down. You don't have to like be trying to learn something all the time. Nope. This is bigger
Oh,
than me.
yeah.
And we still have weeks left of this year. So who knows how far this nature is going to go.
I was just going to say, the ducks, the statues, the trees, it could
Yeah.
still be something new.
Yeah. Well, I still have so many statues that I want to try and get to. I will not have time this year, so I'm looking at next year. I'm looking, am I going to try and take like weekend excursions to statues? Maybe, because I'm not done with those. I was so
I'm sorry.
delighted.
I didn't want to imply that you were.
Of course. Look, when once you meet, and I already forget the exact height, a 40.2 foot tall kielbasa, once you're in its heart, it's hard to ever want to not be near a giant statue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there are so many more I would like to get to, and I hope, but of course it's gonna, who knows?
Yeah.
Like the amount of time I'm like, oh, I don't have time to do that. I'll just do it anyway. And then like a 5 hour road trip just to record one video, I'll have to find reasons to record along the way. That's how I'm gonna justify it. I don't know. Nature 2025 may turn into a Nature 2026 is all I'm saying.
2026, get out and pick up sticks,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
leaves and sticks,
Okay. Okay. Yep.
berries and sticks.
I like that sticks is really gonna be the sticking point there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sticking point.
Oh, I mean, that was beautiful.
You
That was
don't even know
beautiful.
when you're on sometimes, you know?
Just, that wasn't even me attempting to entertain or educate. I don't know. Again, I think I was born someone who in another life I would have been a teacher, but I'm also so terrified of being in front of children that I don't know that I could do it.
I think if the children were young enough, I don't think you'd freak out.
Probably not, but I do like before like a child's birthday party, I do get nervous about having all these other children be like, "You're in charge, so what next?" And then I'm like, "Oof, I don't know. Ask an adult."
Yeah.
And then it's like, "Oh shit, that's me.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
me."
listen, I'm no one to comment. I don't spend time with children, and if I did, I feel like I would. Yeah.
Oh, look, it doesn't matter how much time you spend with children. When you are the grown-up running a child's birthday party,
Hmm.
nothing prepares you for that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of how old that child was at the time. I want to say he was about 10-ish. Well, maybe a little younger, maybe like 8 or 9. We at a very specific party, and one kid came, and he was just so excited to be there, and he was a delight and running around. And then like he came up to me at one point and went, oh, Did you know my grandma has nipples? And before I had a chance to even think of how to respond, he was gone. Just gone, like running around. He was like, and I've entertained her for today. And I was like, I've never forgotten that child. I've never forgotten him looking me in the eye and giving me that information.
I can't believe this is the first time hearing of this. This
Mm.
is
Hmm.
how old? Did you say how old?
I want to say probably about 9.
Feels too old for that.
Well, it was just like it was a surprise.
Yeah.
I was very like, huh, okay. Like I don't know. You just nothing prepares you for it
No,
because you
definitely
don't
not.
you don't know like children will tell you things. Like I've heard so many stories from teachers where the kids will go to the teacher and be like, "So the guy that my mom makes me call uncle stayed over again." Like they will give the teacher all the tea without even realizing that's what they're doing. They're just like, because this is their life. They just tell the teacher stuff. And it's same for when they're at a person's house for a random play date or at a random birthday party.
Right.
They'll tell you things.
Hmm.
They'll tell you things.
Yeah. I have many follow-up questions, and I'm not going to ask them. I'm not going to ask them. It's not important.
Okay.
It's not important, you know?
He's still friends with the child now, if that
I'm excited about
was one
that
of
for
them.
both of them.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Hashtag the power of friendship.
Of course. I mean, he's a lovely child. And even though they go to different schools now, they still hang out.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great.
I mean, listen, we are the queens of the long distance friendship.
Yes. Yeah.
It's all we've ever known.
We've never lived in the same city.
And isn't that a travesty?
It is. That's why I think we are owed a retirement
Hmm.
where we live in the same place. Again, I know I feel like I'm pushing you on this, and I will give you options when the time comes, but I just picture us in a seaside town because I just, for some reason, feel like it'll be nice to see the sea, and I feel like they're going to have the best farmers markets. Why do I think that?
Because
Why?
immediately I'm thinking New England. Now, who knows? Who knows what state countries are going to be in by then? But listen, I'm already picturing it. You're right.
Yeah, look, I, my oldest, the other day, oh, he made some comment. Oh, my husband said something that he took offense to. It was all just like in fun. And he made a joke about him. And my oldest just said, like, well, great news. Someone's gonna have to figure out how to handle the home on his own. And I said, well, wait, just hold up. Does that include me with him? Or am I still taken care of in my elder years? And he goes, no, 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 no. You're okay. You're okay. It's him that has to now fend for himself. And I said, great. Second question. So, like, does that mean I have room to bring a buddy? Like, I'm like, is Auntie Lauren, is she gonna? He's like, she's good too. You guys are both set up. And I was like, great.
Yeah, listen, I've been laying that groundwork for years.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
years. Around the time that I was like, I don't think kids are going to happen for me, I was like, I have to ingratiate myself to these children. I have to make them like me. I need somebody
Oh,
to sign the checks. You know what I mean?
of course. And look, he's on board. I'm not saying my husband had the greatest face in that moment when he realized my retirement plan is you and me. I mean, I did tell him uh when he proposed, I was like, I just need you to know you're always gonna be like number two. And he was like, I know, like you're a mother. And I was like, Lauren, it's like I'm like Lauren is always like I called you after the proposal, like I called you on the way to the car.
Oh, yeah.
Like I didn't even give us time as a couple to like celebrate in that moment. I was calling you on the I think he was standing up off the knee and I was calling you. Like I was Yeah, but I was like, just so you know, I'm a package deal. It's
Yeah.
like, it's just always.
Listen, we've never hit it. It was never, this isn't
No,
something that's getting slid onto the table now.
no, no, no.
No,
We've
no,
always been
no.
very upfront about it.
Very clear.
Yes.
Very clear. Crystal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've got the t-shirts now, so we're bitch one and bitch two.
Yep.
Um, so I mean, I guess in that world he's bitch three. He'll just have to accept that. I think he already
I
has. He already
yeah,
has.
listen, he'll listen to this eventually, I'm sure. And then yeah, we'll see how he weighs in on his moniker of bitch three.
To be
Not sure how
clear,
that's gonna go over, but God
he
bless
may
it.
not remember. I'm referencing the Vegas shirts.
Of course. Of course. Um, what you drinking over there?
Well, we dicked around so long that my slush is pretty much down, so I've got a water for now.
Yeah, I again, I've been ill, so I've been just
Of course.
guzzling water from this Stanley.
Of
And
course.
I also want you to know that I've planned for myself when we take a break, I've planned that my treat is I'll take a fizzy emergency packet and I like to pour it into a wine glass to make it feel like I'm having a fancy shot, when in reality it's just a vitamin drink. But that's what I'm really looking forward to. An emergency in a wine glass.
If there was ever going to be anybody in my life that had like an emergency break glass in case of emergency sort of situation, and behind it was a little wine glass, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm delighted that you're trying to trick your brain into being excited about this and to
Mm-hmm.
be like, ooh, treat. Um,
Treat.
also, look, I think it's just the age we're at
Yeah.
for finding things that are like benign, but making ourselves think it's a treat.
Yes.
Because after I drop that child off at school every morning, I come home and I have a protein shake that I don't love. Like they're fine, but I'm like I should put in more protein in my body as a woman of a certain age, and they're okay. I tried a third flavor. They're fine. But if you think I'm not like, ooh, I'm having that when I get home, I'm gonna sit on that couch and crack that suck. Like I'm jazzed about it, even though I will never say I love them.
Have you tried the Fairlife ones?
I have not.
There's a strawberry banana,
Interesting.
and it is the Fairlife ones in general, any flavor, to me are the best tasting ones. And I know that this is sounding like an we're trying to make an ad sound organic. I promise
Hmm.
you we did not plan this. We're not getting any money. As always, if the Fairlife people want to send me stuff, I'm happy to oblige. But yeah, I'm a big fan of those ones.
Well, look, I will,
Flavor wise, you know.
of course, I will seek them out. Um, but yeah, I started with a chocolate because I was like, you can't go wrong. I'm probably gonna like the chocolate. It's fine. I find I like the vanilla of this one better. I just recently got a caramel just
Oh,
to switch it up. Sure, I did describe it as a dirty vanilla and not in a good way, but they're fine. It's a nice change up. But I do find I like the vanilla because it reminds me of the Carnation instant breakfasts that I used to love so much that don't exist anymore. And
Carnation instant breakfast. You're gonna love it in an instant.
yes, I was obsessed with them. And then it used to be the little packets. And then they stopped selling them. And then it was you could only buy them in the chocolate packets. Then they got rid of those. So my husband went on like some sort of pharmacy online and it was like an $80 canister, like a big ass canister of the chocolate powder. I got sloppy with it. Like I put in just like a scotch too much where you're like, that's too much chocolate, is it? No, it was delicious. Delicious. And I'm trying to bring that back mentally and it's not working. I did
Well,
see
I'm
a
bringing
pumpkin pie protein shake and I have never been more turned off.
yeah.
I was like, that's not, I don't want that.
No. You got to try the Fairlife ones.
I will.
Um, anyway, you're bringing that back. I'm bringing sexy back. How? By getting us into this case. Let's talk about Robert Blake. Of course, the
Oh,
October patron. Oh my God. I was so proud of that transition that
yeah.
then I just watched the train go off the tracks. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, fuck yeah, you fucking nailed it. That was great. You should still be talking. And anyway.
I like that you cheered yourself on so much
Yep.
that you, as the train went by, you was like, yes, yes, I'm supposed to be on the train.
Yes, that was exactly it.
I
That was
like
exactly it.
I like that a lot.
Damn it. Over on Patreon, we do a poll once a month where you can vote for one of the themes that we will cover here on the main feed. In October, the winning vote was for a case about an actor. So that is why we are tackling the Robert Blake case. And if you're not familiar, have no fear. The synopsis is right here. Robert Blake had a successful career as a child actor before earning awards as an adult for the title character in the 70s detective drama Beretta. But despite his lengthy career, Robert is probably best known for his arrest following the murder of his wife, Bonnie Lee Bakley, in 2001. Since Robert was arrested, does that mean he was really the killer? Or did he hire someone to do the job? Or is it possible that he was truly as innocent as he claimed to be? Join us as we deep dive Robert's case, which takes us down the rabbit hole through not one, not two, but five other true crime cases. If you're looking for a jam packed episode, we've got you covered.
This got away from me. Not unlike the opening banter that maybe went on the train a little longer than it was supposed to and forgot its stop. Um, I this one got away from me because every time I turned around, I was like, son of a bitch, that's another one that I've got to like I can't just not mention it. And here we
I get
are.
it.
So this
Yeah.
one's we got a lot. So if you don't like the first case, trust me, the second and third, fourth, fifth, you're gonna like one of them. So, disclaimer as we do, this episode will contain brief mentions of child abuse, intimate partner violence, eating disorders, and suicide. So, trigger warning for those who need it. Michael James Gubitosi, known as Mickey, was born September 18th, 1933, in Nutley, New Jersey. He was the youngest of three children. In 1936, Mickey's parents, Giacomo and Elizabeth, put together a song and dance act featuring their children. The act was called The Three Little Hillbillies, and it seemed to be received relatively well. Believing that their act had the potential to be hugely successful, the family moved to Hollywood in 1937. Mickey's first gig was an uncredited role in the 1939 film Bridal Suite. His siblings managed to get cast as extras in a few roles. From 1922 until 1944, MGM made a series of short films revolving around a group of underprivileged children called Our Gang, aka the Little Rascals. As the first children cast started to age out of their roles, new ones were hired to replace them. And in 1939, Mickey was brought in to replace Porky. He played a character named Mickey in approximately 40 Our Gang short films in the span of 5 years. Around the age of 7, Mickey adopted the stage name Bobby Blake, later maturing it to Robert. So, to avoid any confusion, I will just keep referring to Mickey as Robert or Robert Blake for the rest of the episode. So, Robert didn't go to school until he was 10 years old. So, he got teased a lot by other children for being so far behind. This led to fights and to Robert eventually getting expelled. From the sounds of it, Robert was expelled from 5 separate high schools. Unfortunately for Robert, life wasn't any better for him at home, as his parents were described as physically abusive and outright cruel. Some of their punishments included locking Robert in a closet, making him eat his meals off the floor like an animal. And I don't mean, well, sitting on the floor, I mean literally food off the floor. Um, and purposely withholding affection. Robert claimed the first time he was ever hugged in his life was during the filming of the 1942 movie Moki. Robert would have been 8 or 9. At the time, his first hug came from Donna Reed, who played his mother in the film. Later in life, Robert claimed his parents hated him because he was the result of an affair his mother had with his father's brother.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't reveal that, I think, until after his parents had passed. So,
right.
you know. In the mid 40s, Robert appeared in 22 westerns as the sidekick to the character Red Ryder, but he eventually had to leave MGM because his father had a big argument with the studio head. Around the time that Robert was looking to transition into more adult roles as an actor, he was drafted by the U.S. Army in 1950. Now, according to all sources I could find, Robert was born in 1933, meaning in 1950 he would have been 17. However, the U.S. Army draft only included men and boys over the age of 18. So either he was being untruthful about being drafted that year, or he lied about his age and he intentionally signed up of his own volition, or he's simply been lying about his age all along and he's actually older than he claims. I don't know what the truth here is, but in 1950, Robert was stationed at a U.S. Army base in Alaska, where he fell in love with a 16-year-old girl. He was like 17, almost 18 at the time, so I don't think that like the age difference wasn't that bad. But I
No.
have heard rumors that the girl was actually 14.
Okay.
Uh, Again, those are just rumors. I wasn't able to find any proof. But either way, the girl's father did not approve of the relationship, and Robert allegedly threatened to kill the man over it.
Oh, wow.
Robert got out of the service when he was 21 and he struggled to acclimate himself to civilian life. He suffered from deep depression and struggled with substances. To make ends meet, he started selling drugs, but decided he wanted more in his life, so he signed up for an acting class. He got a few small parts on single episodes of The Roy Rogers Show, 26 Men, and The Millionaire, but nothing really put him on the map. In 1959, Robert received an offer to play Little Joe Cartwright in the TV Western Bonanza, but for some reason, he turned it down. Maybe he didn't believe the show would last, or maybe he simply wanted to branch out from Westerns. I don't know his reasoning, but clearly saying no was a terrible idea because the show was incredibly beloved and it ran for 14 seasons. The part of Little Joe Cartwright eventually went to Michael Landon. Robert continued to do a few episodes of TV as well as bit parts in movies like Pork Chop Hill, The Purple Gang, and The Greatest Story Ever Told. Fun fact, in 1961, he did an episode of a show called Laramie, which I felt was a fun callback to last week's episode, which was set in Laramie, Wyoming. In November 1961, Robert married an actress named Sandra Kerr. They had two children together, a son Noah in 1965 and a daughter Delana in 1966. Then in 1967, Robert finally landed a role that made Hollywood sit up and pay attention. He played Perry Smith in the TV movie In Cold Blood. The movie was based on the nonfiction novel of the same name written by Truman Capote. It was first published as a four-part series in The New Yorker in 1965 before being released as a novel in 1966. It tells the true story of the murder of the Clutter family in Holcomb, Kansas, which leads me to an additional true crime story within an already true crime story. Side note.
I love it.
The Clutter family consisted of 48-year-old Herbert, his 45-year-old wife Bonnie, their 16-year-old daughter Nancy, and their 15-year-old son Kenyon. On November 15th, 1959, a friend of Nancy's arrived at the Clutter's house as she was supposed to attend church with them that day. When the girl knocked, there was no answer, so she went and got another friend, and they entered the house together, where they found Nancy had been fatally shot. The girls called the police, who arrived and discovered that Herbert, Bonnie, and Kenyon had all also been fatally shot. The police were completely at a loss as to what may have happened. Meanwhile, in the Kansas State Penitentiary, an inmate named Floyd Wells learned about the Clutter family murders and he immediately knew who was responsible. Floyd used to work for the Clutters, and he told a fellow inmate named Dick Hickok that the Clutters were very well off. Hickok kind of took this to mean, well, they are obscenely wealthy and they've probably got a safe in their house. That's not true. But Hickok told another inmate named Perry Smith about this potentially huge score, and they agreed to rob the Clutters once they were released. In the early morning hours of November 14th, 1959, Smith and Hickok went to the Clutter family farm, but they found little money and no sign of a safe. They woke the family demanding to know the whereabouts of the safe, but were told that it didn't exist. Smith and Hickok tied the family up, leaving them in separate rooms while they checked the house top to bottom. Once they realized that there was no safe, the family were shot, and the Hickok and Smith left town with nothing but a pair of binoculars, a portable radio, and less than $50 cash.
Oof.
Floyd Wells told the warden what he knew about the Clutters, and the Kansas Bureau of Investigation immediately started looking for Hickok and Smith. Turns out, after leaving Kansas, the killers passed a few bad checks in Kansas City before ending up in Mexico, where they ran out of money and had to sell their car so they could afford bus tickets back to the United States. Smith and Hickok were finally arrested in Vegas on December 30th after a car they had stolen was identified. Both men eventually confessed to the crime. Both said it was Perry Smith who was the shooter. Both were convicted and sentenced to death. They tried to appeal their sentences for 5 years, but were unsuccessful. Both were hanged in April 1965. Perry Smith was 36 at the time of his death. Dick Hickok was 33. Fun fact, in the movie, Robert became the first actor to say the word bullshit on screen. And apparently, his performance was so disturbing that Anthony Hopkins later stated he watched the movie several times while preparing for his role as Hannibal Lecter.
Wow.
Yeah. After In Cold Blood, Robert did a few more films until he got his big break in 1975. Robert was cast as the title character in the drama series Beretta, which follows a plainclothes detective who shared a rundown apartment with his cockatoo named Fred. I didn't think a bird was involved. It was. Some of Beretta's popular catchphrases were, "You can take dat to da bank," and "Don't do the crime if you can't do the time." The show was a hit, and it ran for 4 seasons, which back in the day meant 82 episodes. Robert won a Primetime Emmy Award for his role in 1975 and a Golden Globe in 1976. But once the show was over, the roles slowed down a bit and Robert was back to bit parts, with exception to his role as George in the TV movie Of Mice and Men and Jimmy Hoffa in the TV movie Blood Feud. I could do another true crime side note about Jimmy Hoffa, but we don't have the time. What I will say, he was a controversial labor leader who disappeared from a restaurant parking lot in Detroit in July 1975. He was legally declared dead in 1982, and as of this record, he's never been found, and his case has never been solved. Aside from Robert's portrayal, Jimmy Hoffa has been played on screen by Jack Nicholson in 1992 movie Hoffa, and Al Pacino in the 2019 movie The Irishman. The fun facts and informational tidbits in this episode just don't stop. In 1983, Robert and his wife Sandra divorced. Robert later described their marriage as a disaster, saying they fought constantly. Sandra said that Robert was obsessively jealous and he often threatened to kill her. Following the divorce, Sandra claimed Robert scared her into giving him full custody of their children. Robert started to go through some mental health struggles, which were made worse by the fact that his new show was a failure. The series was called Helltown, and it was written and created by Robert, who also played the lead role of a priest working in Los Angeles. It aired in 1985 to disappointing reviews and was canceled during its first season. Robert later did an interview with 2020 where he stated he lost part of his sanity during the parts of his life when he wasn't working, and he just never truly recovered. He said this led to him having a nervous breakdown on the set of Helltown, which caused him to just walk off the set and not come back. Robert said, quote, I had 35 different feelings in 5 minutes. I was nuts when I was away from the camera. Unfortunately, he mostly remained away from the camera until 1993 when he starred in the TV movie Judgment Day, the John List story. Robert played the role of John List, who I have previously mentioned briefly on this show, but for those who might not recall, I present to you a second true crime story within an already true crime story. Side note. 46-year-old John List was living in a mansion in Westfield, New Jersey, with his 47-year-old wife, Helen, their 3 children, 16-year-old Patricia, 15-year-old John Jr., 13-year-old Frederick, and his elderly mother, 84-year-old Alma. Completely unprovoked, on November 9th, 1971, List fatally shot Helen and Alma while the children were at school. When Patricia and Frederick arrived home after school, List fatally shot them as well. Then he stopped and had a bit of lunch before driving to the bank where he closed his bank account and his mother's bank account. He then drove to the high school where he watched his oldest son, John, play a soccer game. Then he drove John home and tried to shoot him. Apparently, the gun misfired and John tried to fight back, so List had to shoot him multiple times. List then put his wife and children's bodies on sleeping bags in the mansion's ballroom, left his mother's body in the attic, cleaned up the various crime scenes, removed his picture from all the family photos in the house, turned the radio to a religious station, lowered the temperature of the house, and left. Now, because List had sent notes to the children's schools saying they'd be out of state visiting a sick grandparent, and he stopped all milk, mail, and newspaper deliveries, the murders weren't discovered for nearly a month. At the scene, police found a 5-page letter that List had written to his pastor, claiming that there was too much evil in the world, and he killed his family to save their souls. He stated that the only reason he didn't take his own life was because it would have prevented him from going to heaven, where he hoped to one day be reunited with his family. After the murders, List left town and stopped briefly in Michigan before ending up in Colorado, where he got an accounting job and started using the name Robert Clark. In 1985, List remarried and moved to Virginia. He continued to evade police for years when he was featured on an episode of America's Most Wanted in May 1989. Less than 2 weeks after the episode aired, List was finally arrested more than 17 years after he murdered his family. List claims the only reason he did it were because of financial issues. In April 1990, List was convicted of 5 counts of first-degree murder and given 5 life sentences meant to be served consecutively. List filed an appeal on the grounds his judgment was impaired by PTSD from his military service in his youth. To which I say, this was not a crime of passion that occurred in a moment. You disturbingly pre-planned the entire thing, also stopping for lunch in the middle of it, and made it so you'd be able to escape. You knew what you were doing is wrong. He also argued that his confession letter he had left behind was supposed to be not admissible because it was a confidential communication between him and his pastor.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
shockingly, his appeal was denied, and List died in prison of pneumonia in March 2008 at the age of 82. But before I'm done with John List, I'm somehow cramming even more true crime into this episode because at one point, the FBI believed that John List might be D.B. Cooper.
Right.
Very quickly, on November 24th, 1971, which was just a few weeks after List murdered his family, a well-dressed man boarded a flight from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. Shortly after takeoff, the man told the crew that he had a bomb and demanded $200,000 and four parachutes upon landing. When they landed, police gave the man his money and the parachutes. The man released all 35 passengers completely unharmed. He then told the flight crew to refuel the plane and demanded they take a second flight to Mexico City. But shortly after takeoff, the man opened a door and parachuted out of the plane into a heavily wooded area in southwest Washington. All six cabin crew members were unharmed. In 1980, $5,800 of the ransom money was found along the banks of the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington. To this day, the unknown man has never been identified. He originally purchased the ticket with cash under the name Dan Cooper, but due to an error in the press, the man came to be known as DB Cooper. In 2016, the FBI announced that they had officially suspended their active investigation into the case, but as of this record, it remains unsolved. They briefly considered John List as a suspect because he had similar look to the sketches of Cooper and because it happened so quickly after his killing spree. The FBI found no evidence to link List to the crime and have since stated they no longer consider him a suspect in the D.B. Cooper case. Robert Blake was nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award for his role as John List. Also in that John List movie, David Caruso, who is most known for playing Horatio Kane on CSI Miami and less known for playing Jimmy Kilmartin in the 1995 movie Kiss of Death, which also stars Stanley Tucci, Helen Hunt, Samuel L. Jackson, and friend of the podcast, Nicolas Cage. I'm not going to let it go. Following the John List movie, Robert had a part in the 1995 movie Money Train, which starred Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes, and Jennifer Lopez. After that, Robert played Mystery Man in the David Lynch movie Lost Highway in 1997. The movie stars Bill Pullman as a musician who is framed for his wife's murder. David Lynch said the movie was inspired by the O.J. Simpson case. And honestly, we don't have time to get distracted with another one. So I'm simply going to say, for more information on O.J. Simpson, check out episode 71 in the True Crime and Cocktails archives. Lost Highway was Robert Blake's final film. 2 years after its release, 66-year-old Robert went to a jazz club in Los Angeles where he met 43-year-old Bonnie Lee Bakley. Bonnie Lee Bakley was born June 7th, 1956 in Morristown, New Jersey. She had a troubled childhood that included an alcoholic father and being mercilessly bullied at school. Bonnie dropped out of high school at 15 and moved to New York with dreams of becoming a model and actress. Unfortunately, things didn't work out, and in 1971, when Bonnie was just 15, she got married. Bonnie met Evangelos Paulakis, while they were both students at the Barbizon School of Modeling. Evangelos was a Greek immigrant who needed to get married to be able to legally stay in the United States. Evangelos offered Bonnie money to marry him. She agreed. They divorced a few weeks later, and from the best I can tell, Evangelos was then deported.
Oh.
6 years later, Bonnie got married again, this time to her first cousin, Paul Garin. The couple remained married for 5 years, which is by far the longest of Bonnie's marriages. No judgments, just facts. The couple had 2 children together, including a son named Glenn and a daughter named Holly. Bonnie and Paul got divorced in 1982, but remained close. Over the next 16 years, Bonnie got married 7 more times.
Wow.
Five of which were annulled soon after the wedding. We don't have time to go through each individual husband. And to be honest, there isn't a lot out there about the marriages. But I do want to briefly talk about Bonnie's 8th husband, a man named Glenn Wolfe, who went by Scotty. Bonnie and Scotty were married in 1995. Scotty was a Baptist minister and hotel owner from Blythe, California. Scotty holds the Guinness World Record for the most monogamous marriages by a male. Between 1926 and 1996, Scotty was legally married 29 times. His shortest marriage lasted 19 days. His longest, 11 years. Bonnie Lee Bakley was wife number 28. Following their divorce, Scotty married for the final time to a woman named Linda Taylor. It is believed that marriage was a publicity stunt because Linda holds the Guinness World Record for the most monogamous marriages by a female. Before her marriage to Scotty, Linda had been legally married 22 times. Further proof it was probably just a publicity stunt. The fact that Linda moved back home to Indiana by herself 1 week after the wedding, it was the final marriage for both as Scotty died of heart disease in June 1997 at the age of 88. None of his wives attended his funeral, and out of his 41 children, only one attended.
Oh my God.
Linda passed away in December 2009 at the age of 69. As of this record, both Scotty and Linda remain the Guinness World Record holder for the highest number of marriages. After divorcing Scotty in 1995, Bonnie Lee Bakley married John Ray, her ninth husband. They divorced in 1998. Throughout her various marriages, Bonnie also had some legal struggles. She was arrested for drug possession in Memphis in 1989. In 1995, she was arrested for passing bad checks from a bank account owned by a Memphis record company, which did not employ her at the time. So I don't know how she got the checks in the first place. She was fined $1,000 and forced to work weekends at a penal farm to pay off her debt. In 1998, Bonnie was arrested in Arkansas for possessing 5 licenses and 7 Social Security cards, all with different names. She was charged with fraud and given 3 years probation. Bonnie admitted she used the various IDs during her Lonely Hearts scams. In the early 80s, Bonnie started placing Lonely Hearts ads looking for a male companion. And then whenever a man responded to her, she would start telling him she needed financial help. Maybe she needed help paying her rent, or she was in a rough space and just needed money, or she needed money to go travel to be able to meet these men, which she then never did. It was lucrative enough. She was able to buy houses in both Memphis and California. She also started selling photos of naked women, including herself, through these ads. And while running her scams, Bonnie, according to her friends, developed an obsession with celebrities. She became determined to marry a famous man, once saying, quote, "Being around celebrities makes you feel better than other people."
Oh boy.
In 1990, Bonnie moved to Memphis, where she started to pursue singer Jerry Lee Lewis. Now, similar to O.J. Simpson, I don't have time to get into Jerry's situation. But if you're interested in more information on him and his creep behavior, you can check out episode 51 in our back catalog. Bonnie managed to actually meet Jerry. She became close friends with Jerry's sister. And when Bonnie became pregnant in 1992, she claimed Jerry was the father. And when the child was born in July 1993, Bonnie named her Jerry Lee. This time Jerry, Jerry, as opposed to Jerry Lee Lewis, who is Jerry. A DNA test did later prove Jerry was not the father. Bonnie then sent her daughter Jerry to live with her ex-husband Paul, who raised the child as his own. Bonnie did financially support the child, though, while she was there. But since things didn't work out with Jerry Lee Lewis, Bonnie moved to California, where she allegedly stalked Dean Martin, Frankie Valli, and Gary Busey. If any celebrity is going to fall in love with his stalker, I thought for sure it would be Gary Busey. I guess not. Unfortunately for Bonnie, she couldn't make any relationships happen there. So in the early 90s, she switched her focus to Christian Brando, son of actor Marlon Brando. Did you know when Christian was just 13 years old, his mother randomly took him out of school and fled to northern Mexico, where she offered to pay a group of people to hide her child from his father because Marlon had won sole custody? She essentially kidnapped her own child. And then she failed to pay the group, so they took the child and hid him somewhere. Even the mother didn't know where he was. And the child remained there until he was found by a private investigator who was hired by
Oh
Marlon
my
Brando.
God.
Marlon was in France filming at the time. So, yeah. And look, I'm not saying Marlon was a great guy. In fact, I've read a lot of stories to claim the opposite, especially regarding his treatment of women. But I don't have the time to deep dive him. Maybe that's another day. It definitely isn't today. So, at the time of Bonnie's initial interest in Marlon's oldest son, Christian was in prison serving a 10-year sentence for manslaughter. You know what that means? An absolutely unprecedented third true crime story within an already true crime story. Side note. So, Christian Brando had a half sister named Cheyenne who had been dating a man named Dag Drolet for about 4 years. This means they started dating when Cheyenne was 16 and Dag was 23. Don't love it. In May 1990, Cheyenne was 8 months pregnant with Dag's baby. On May 16th, 1990, Christian and Cheyenne went out for dinner, during which Cheyenne claimed that Dag had been physically abusive towards her. When they returned home, Christian, who later admitted to being very drunk, confronted Dag and pulled a gun. The men started fighting over the gun when it accidentally went off and Dag was fatally shot. He was 27 years old. Christian was arrested and eventually offered a deal. In 1991, he pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 10 years. In June 1990, Cheyenne gave birth to a son named Tukey. It was later determined Cheyenne suffered from mental health issues, and the abuse, it turns out, may not have been real. She was admitted to a psychiatric hospital in Tahiti, where she was later diagnosed with schizophrenia. Sadly, Cheyenne took her own life in April 1995. She was just 25. I just need to do a brief pause, if I may.
Of course. Clap two on three. One, two, three.
According to Bonnie's sister, in the mid 90s, Bonnie FedExed naked pictures of herself to Christian while he was in prison. The
Oh my
two
God.
somehow started a friendship off of that. It quickly turned romantic after Christian was released in 1996 after serving about 5 years in prison. When Bonnie met Robert Blake in 1999, they immediately hit it off. They had similar childhood experiences that included troubled home lives and being bullied at school. But while she was seeing Robert, Bonnie continued to see Christian on the side. And when she became pregnant with her fourth child, she believed that Christian was the father. So when her daughter was born in June 2000, Bonnie named her Christian Shannon Brando. When DNA tests proved that Robert Blake was the father, the child's name was legally changed to Rose Lenore Sophia Blake.
Oh my God.
After discovering that he was the father, Robert offered to marry Bonnie, but only if she agreed to sign a legal document stating that Robert would be allowed monitored visits with the baby and Bonnie would be required to get written permission from Robert if she wanted any friends or family members to visit the property. The document also stated if either spouse decided to end the marriage for any reason, then the other spouse automatically gets full custody of the child.
That's strange.
Yeah. Bonnie went against her lawyer's recommendation and signed the document.
Oh my God.
The couple were married in November 2004, making Robert Bonnie's 10th husband. Again, no judgment, just facts. After the wedding, Bonnie and the baby lived in a guest house on Robert's property in Studio City. The relationship between Bonnie and Robert was rocky at best. And then Robert hired a private investigator who discovered Bonnie was still running her Lonely Heart scams and selling naked pictures of herself.
Whoa.
Robert was upset, but at the end of the day, the marriage was more on paper than anything else, so he seemingly let it go. Since they were living in separate homes, I don't know how much time they spent together, but on May 4th, 2001, they went for dinner at Robert's favorite Italian restaurant, Vitello's. It's located on Tahunga Avenue, I believe. I don't know. It's located on Tahunga in Studio City, Los Angeles. It's been open since 1964. Robert especially liked the place because they had a dish named after him, which is what he ate that evening. What is in a Vitello's, Robert Blake? I'm so glad you asked. According to the LAist, it featured al dente fusilli doused in a nicely seasoned marinara mixed with sauteed spinach. And honestly, it sounds nice. For me, I'd add a little sauteed mushroom and maybe a nice grated parm on the top. But then they'd have to call it the Christy Oxborrow. And if I'm ever getting a food named after me, it better be a cheeseburger. I'm passionate about that. So,
Absolutely.
Robert and Bonnie left the restaurant at 9:35 p.m. and they walked around the corner about a block and a half to where Robert's car was parked on Woodbridge. When they got to the car, Robert realized he had left his gun at the restaurant. You heard me correctly. Robert had a permit to carry the gun. It just seems so odd. I guess he placed the gun on the seat beside him while he ate. I mean, if you're gonna carry a gun around all the time, you're not gonna just invest in some kind of a holster? I'm not a gun owner, so I wouldn't know. But are people just freewheeling guns everywhere without
In
any
the
sort of
in
case?
2001? No, I don't feel it in California. I mean, maybe in other places, but that sounds extreme to me.
It just, yeah, it just struck me as odd. Not, I mean, have a gun, great. It's just the loose. Where do I put it? I'll just lay it on the seat while we have
Yeah,
dinner.
I
That
didn't think it was an
feels
open carry state, but again, we don't have time for this.
we don't. Uh, so Robert walked back to the restaurant to retrieve his gun while Bonnie stayed at the car. When Robert returned to the vehicle, he found Bonnie unconscious, slumped over in the passenger seat, and covered in blood. Robert ran to a nearby apartment and banged on the door. A man named Sean Stanek answered, and Robert told him, "You gotta help me. My wife, she's bleeding. They beat her up. Somebody mugged us or something." Sean called 911 and then followed Robert to the car. Sean said there was a lot of blood, but Bonnie did appear to still be breathing. Robert then ran back to the restaurant where thankfully one of the customers happened to be a nurse. So the nurse and her friends went to the car, noting that Robert never went anywhere near the vehicle, never appeared to check on her at all. But he made a really big show of walking around and wailing, my wife, and then sat on the curb. And at one point, Robert screamed so much that he vomited behind a dumpster.
Oh, wow.
Bonnie was transported to a nearby hospital where she was pronounced dead at 10:15 p.m. She was just 44 years old. When police arrived on scene, they found a woman with two gunshot wounds to the right cheek and shoulder, and the woman's husband carrying a gun. So police were really skeptical of Robert right away. And it didn't help matters when police were able to find multiple witnesses who saw Robert and Bonnie leave the restaurant together, but not a single witness who saw Robert return to the restaurant to pick up his gun. Robert claims that three restaurant employees were standing near the cash register when he went back to the restaurant, but none of those employees ever came forward. Robert says the workers didn't speak English, so he just assumed they were undocumented and that's why they never came forward. Did you speak with them or did you just make an assumption, Robert?
Yeah,
I
that's Wildly problematic.
Yeah, yeah, it's not great. A busboy at the restaurant said he didn't see any gun while he was clearing the table after Robert and Bonnie had left. Witnesses at the scene said Robert seemed disingenuous and the crying seemed really forced because there were no actual tears. It was described as very performative. The other obvious suspicion here is the fact that Bonnie was shot and Robert was outright holding a gun at the scene. Robert claims he only carried the gun for the sake of Bonnie's safety. If that's true, and her safety was such a concern to him that he was packing heat at a restaurant, then why did Robert leave Bonnie alone on a dark street when he went back to the restaurant? If he was already at the car, why didn't he just drive around the corner to the restaurant, get the gun, and go home? Especially if Bonnie's safety was such a concern. Robert's hands were tested, or Robert's hands tested positive for 5 particles of gunshot residue. Experts claim if he had fired a gun that night, there would have been closer to 100 particles. The low amount could simply have come from Robert carrying his own gun around. Robert's clothes were found to have gunshot residue, but the tests could not definitively confirm whether it was from the murder or not. Robert's gun was a .38 Special Smith & Wesson. After testing, police determined Robert's gun was not the murder weapon.
Really?
The day after Bonnie's murder, police discovered a gun in a dumpster near the spot where the shooting took place. The gun was covered in dirt and oil, but there were no fingerprints, and since the serial number had been filed off, police weren't able to trace it. The gun was a vintage 9mm Walther P38 semi-automatic pistol, which is most known for being the weapon used by the German army starting in World War II.
Oh, God.
So, not exactly a commonly used gun in the United States in 2001. At that point, it was more of a collector's item than anything else. There were claims that Robert was a gun collector, but he allegedly did not have a Walther specifically registered to him. Since Robert's gun was not a match, police started to consider other suspects, such as maybe one of the men that Bonnie had scammed, or maybe Christian Brando, who had once told Bonnie, quote, "You're lucky someone ain't out there to put a bullet in your head." Police, however, just weren't able to get past Robert's sketchy behavior at the scene. Robert was questioned by police for several hours, during which he refused a polygraph. Robert told police he was too upset and he didn't want to give an incorrect reading. Robert's lawyer publicly stated Robert was simply helping police with the investigation. He was absolutely not a suspect. And then 11 months later, in April 2002, Robert Blake was officially arrested for the murder of Bonnie Lee Bakley. He was also charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder and 2 counts of solicitation of murder. Police believed that Robert's handyman and former bodyguard, Earl Caldwell, was also involved in the murder. Earl was arrested the same day and charged with conspiracy to commit murder, but the charges against him were eventually dropped. Police also arrested Ronald Duffy Hambleton and Gary Whiz Kid McClarty, 2 retired stuntmen who worked with Robert on Beretta. Duffy and Whiz Kid agreed to testify that Robert had tried to hire them to kill his wife. Robert was denied bail multiple times and was forced to stay at the men's Central Jail in Los Angeles, allegedly the same cell that O.J. Simpson occupied after his own arrest. Robert was finally released on $1.5 million bail in March 2003 after nearly a year in jail. He was then forced to remain on house arrest until his trial. And the trial date just kept getting pushed back multiple times. First, in October 2002, when Robert's lawyer quit because Robert went against his lawyer's advice and did a TV interview from prison.
Why would he do that?
Yeah. Well, great news. In January 2003, Robert lost his second lawyer because he did it again and went against the lawyer's advice and did another interview from prison.
That's the most, and you know I don't love this word, and I am using it deliberately. That is
Mm-hmm.
the most insane thing I think
Yeah.
I've ever heard on this show.
Yeah.
You are awaiting trial for
Yeah.
murder.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Um, in February 2004, Robert's third lawyer quit, citing irreconcilable differences with
That's
his client.
insane.
Yeah, I didn't know a lawyer and his client could have differences. I thought that was strictly like a marriage thing, but or divorce, I guess. But apparently not. In December 2004, the trial was delayed another 2 weeks after a computer belonging to the defense team was stolen from that attorney's apartment. It was found at a pawn shop 2 weeks later and determined to not be compromised in any way. The 18 and 19-year-old suspects pawned the computer and some other pieces from the apartment for $100 just hours after the items were stolen. What can I say? The true crime in this never stops. Robert Blake's murder trial finally started on December 20th, 2004. The prosecution argued that Robert had a strong motive as he wanted out of the marriage, but he also didn't want to lose custody of his daughter. They also pointed out no witness saw Robert return to Vitello's for the gun. The defense, however, claimed based on the layout of the restaurant, it was more than possible for Robert to return to the table without anyone seeing him. And this is something I'm fascinated by. If Robert had no knowledge of this crime and genuinely went back to the restaurant because he left his gun behind, that's an insane excuse. I left my gun behind is wild to me. Forgetting the gun, that's not an issue to me. It makes sense that you put something down and then you forget about it an hour or so later. The issue for me is he claimed he only carried it for the sake of Bonnie's safety. And then when he realized he forgot it, he absolutely left Bonnie alone in the dark, blocks away, so he could go back to get the gun. If you're concerned enough about her safety that you carry a weapon whenever you leave the house, why would you feel comfortable leaving her alone outside at night? But then on the other hand, if Robert knew about the murder in advance, the gun story is still insane. If Robert was the shooter, it's risky to fake an alibi that can't be confirmed. But if Robert hired someone and returning to the restaurant for the gun was simply his alibi, why wouldn't he make sure numerous people saw him? Make a fuss. Stop and talk to people. Anything so somebody can confirm that you were there that second time. Claiming the gun was for Bonnie's safety is also a very good way to point the finger at other suspects because it gives the impression that Bonnie's life may have been in danger. Just days after the murder, Robert hired a private investigator to try and solve the case. He felt he would do it better than the police. Spoiler, nobody did it. The PI noticed an unknown man watching Robert's property. The man was described as a 20-something-year-old male with a crew cut. The defense then suggested, well, that man is probably the person who killed Bonnie. But if that's true, why is he hanging around Robert's house after the murder is done? If Bonnie was this man's target, why would he stick around? It doesn't appear, though, that this man was ever mentioned to the police. So did he exist? We don't know. But of course, the defense is going to bring up this unknown man. They want to create reasonable doubt, especially since Robert really looked guilty at the time. Again, standing near a gunshot victim holding a gun isn't a great look. But tests determined he likely didn't fire a gun that night, and his gun wasn't a match to the crime. But then there's the fact so many witnesses testified to say that Robert's grief on the night of the murder appeared to be an act. They said Robert was wailing and crying, no actual tears. Robert also didn't go anywhere near Bonnie while people were trying to help her. But according to the defense, Robert was so upset that he threw up. Well, according to the testimony of Darren Goodall, who worked as Robert's personal assistant for several years, starting in the late 80s, Robert may have had an eating disorder. When Darren was on the stand, he outright asked if Robert ever vomited. After a meal, Darren said, quote, always. After dinner, always. Darren then stated he wasn't sure why Robert did it, whether it was a medical issue or simply about controlling his weight. But if throwing up after dinner was commonplace for Robert for several years, then it's more than possible his illness at the scene had nothing to do with grief at all. Maybe it was just a habit. Maybe it was just an act to appear more upset than he was. The prosecution pushed the idea that Robert wasn't happy with his marriage and he wanted out. But because Robert had made Bonnie sign that agreement that whoever ended the marriage, the other spouse gets the custody, what else was he going to do? Maybe he wanted out, but didn't want to lose custody. I mean, the only way that would happen is if Bonnie was the one to push for divorce, but it didn't seem like that was happening. So the prosecution suggested Robert believed the only way for him to get what he wanted was to end Bonnie's life. According to testimony from Robert's first wife, Sandra, she said she ran into Robert shortly after his wedding to Bonnie, and when she congratulated him, he pushed her against a wall and said, "The marriage is all smoke and mirrors." Very dramatic actor, if I may. Robert then grabbed Sandra's wrist and said, "The baby's real, but the marriage isn't." I don't. So, I mean, it doesn't sound like Robert was super happy with his marital situation. The prosecution then brought in former stuntmen Ronald Duffy Hambleton and Gary Whizkid McClarty, who had been arrested after Robert for their possible connection to Bonnie's murder. Duffy and Whizkid made a deal, which involved testifying against Robert. They both made claims that Robert tried to hire them to kill his wife, but both are adamant that they turned him down. Under cross-examination, both admitted to a history of drug abuse and petty crime convictions, so their testimony didn't hold a lot of weight. The prosecution pushed the idea that Robert hired someone to commit the crime, suggesting he found someone else after the two stuntmen turned him down. The prosecution then pointed a finger at Earl Caldwell, Robert's handyman and former bodyguard. A note was found in Earl's car, which had things like Drano, pool acid, duct tape, and various tools on it. The prosecution suggested those were items Earl was going to use to commit the murder. I mean, honestly, the items just look like a shopping list for a handyman. So, and they were doing renovations off and on, so it kind of made sense. So I'm not 100% sure why Earl was ever arrested. I understand why the charges were dropped. There was just no proof that Earl was involved in any way, especially since Drano, pool acid, and duct tape had nothing to do with Bonnie being shot. And if Robert didn't hire the stuntmen or Earl to commit the crime, what proof did the prosecution have that Robert hired anyone? Well, detectives found $10,000 in $100 bills in Robert's home, so the prosecution claimed the money was meant as payment for the murder. Even though the money was found days after the murder, you would think the person would have already been paid, but I've never paid anyone to commit a murder, so I just don't know the logistics of that.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's like, do you have to pay up front? It feels like you want to make sure. I would think there's probably a deposit situation.
There would have to be like half up front,
Half up
half
front,
after.
half when
That
it's
feels
done.
that feels reasonable,
Yeah.
right? The defense called Pamela Huddock to the stand. She was an actress turned event planner who dated and lived with Robert off and on throughout the 90s. Pamela said she first dated Robert in 1991 when he was 58 and she was 29. She said things ended after a few months. and they rekindled in 1995 when she moved into his guest house for a while, and then again in 1997 when she again moved back into the guest house. Pamela said Robert always kept large sums of cash at the house because he just preferred to use cash when he was paying for things. Robert's former assistant, Darren Goodall, testified to say the same. So maybe the large sum of money at the house wasn't as suspicious as police had thought. The defense then pushed the idea that Bonnie was a bad seed, and because of her specific lifestyle of conning men and selling nude pictures, that the list of potential murder suspects was endless. They seemed to suggest that Bonnie essentially brought her death upon herself. And look, I get it. Bonnie maybe did some things that weren't 100% legal, but still, she did not deserve what happened to her. The jurors were taken to the crime scene so they could see the distance between the restaurant and the car, and then maybe check to see if it was possible for Robert to enter the restaurant unseen by staff. The jury ended up deliberating for 9 days. On March 16th, 2005, Robert Blake was found not guilty of the murder of Bonnie Lee Bakley. The jurors said they didn't believe the testimony of the two stuntmen, and they felt the prosecution failed to place the murder weapon in Robert's hands. The jury was then deadlocked 11-1 about acquitting Robert on the solicitation of murder charge, so the judge stepped in and just dismissed that count. He said he did so in the interest of justice.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. 8 months after the verdict, Robert was back in court, this time over a civil judgment. Bonnie's children sued Robert for wrongful death. During the civil trial, Robert's handyman, Earl Caldwell, was officially cleared of any wrongdoing in Bonnie's case. But in the end, the jury found Robert responsible for Bonnie's death. He was ordered to pay Bonnie's children $30 million. Robert filed an appeal. In April 2008, the appeals court upheld the verdict in the civil case, but agreed to decrease Robert's penalty to $15 million. It is uncertain if he ever actually paid the money. So what has happened since the trial to all these people linked to the case? Well, in October 2004, Christian Brando married a woman named Deborah Presley, who describes herself as an extraordinary author and the biological daughter of Elvis Presley. Yeah, she wrote a book about her life. The tagline for it is Elvis, Marlon, Christian, and me, clearly using celebrities she's associated with simply for clout. To be clear, there is no Elvis and her. The two never met. Deborah was allegedly told by her mother 10 years after Elvis's death that Elvis was her father. Deborah took her mother at her word and then legally changed her last name to Presley and then sued the Presley estate for what she believed was her share.
oh my God.
She has never given DNA to confirm
Right.
whether she is or not. I don't know when this woman met Christian Brando. She claims they were in a relationship for nearly 5 years before they got married. I could not confirm it. I also don't know how much contact she personally had with Marlon Brando. I guess I'm just saying I'm doubtful about her entire book, which unfortunately, I guess I never read. Deborah and Christian separated less than 3 months after their wedding. I don't know if she ever got married since, but to this day, she still uses the surname Presley Brando. And I don't know if that's specifically just to help sell more books or not.
I guarantee it.
Christian Brando died of pneumonia in January 2008 at the age of 49. Bonnie and Robert's daughter Rose was raised by Robert's daughter Delana from his first marriage. Delana first took her sister in when Robert was arrested and then later legally adopted her. Rose didn't have any interaction with her father between the ages of 4 and 19. Rose is currently living in Los Angeles, pursuing a career in acting. Delana got married, had more children, and became a psychology professor at California State University. Noah, Robert Blake's son from his first marriage, is an actor with a lengthy resume, including various episodes of Growing Pains, Mr. Belvedere, Married with Children, ER, The Wonder Years, and LA Law. He was most recently in a miniseries called The Guardian Returns, but I honestly think he is probably most known for his role as Rhett in the 1989 movie Teen Witch. If you haven't seen the movie, I haven't either, but I highly encourage you to go to YouTube and check out the Teen Witch scene. Top that. It involves Rhett and a girl named Polly having what I guess you could call a rap battle. It's worth a watch. It is worth a watch. It's been making the rounds on the TikToks and the Instagrams because of how absolutely insane it is. As for Robert Blake, he kept a fairly low profile following the trials. In February 2006, he filed for bankruptcy with debts of $3 million in unpaid legal fees and unpaid taxes. In April 2010, the state of California filed a tax lien against him for $1.1 million in unpaid back taxes. In 2011, Robert released an autobiography called Tales of a Rascal: What I Did for Love. In April 2017, he got married for a third time to Pamela Huddock, who testified on his behalf during the murder trial. Robert filed for divorce in December 2018, citing irreconcilable differences. At the time of his filing, Robert requested the court deny Pamela any spousal support.
Well, he didn't have the money.
Yeah, yeah. In September 2019, Robert started a YouTube channel called Robert Blake, I Ain't Dead Yet, so
Oh my
stay tuned.
God.
He used it to post videos where he spoke about his life and career. In 2021, he started a website where he sold memorabilia from his career as well as his own autobiography. Quentin Tarantino's novel Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is dedicated to several people, including Quentin's own wife and son, and a list of people Quentin describes as actor old timers who told him stories about old Hollywood. Of the 7 actors listed, Robert Blake is one of them. Robert Blake died of heart disease in March 2023. He was 89 years old. 3 days later, the Academy Awards left him out of the in memoriam montage. I guess the Academy decided to keep their distance. Despite Robert's acquittal, he maintained his innocence until his death. But as of this record, Bonnie Lee Bakley's death remains unsolved. Reporting for this jam-packed episode, I'm Christy Oxborrow, hopefully the future name of a cheeseburger.
Oh, it's only a matter of time. Don't worry. This is a wild ride. Listen, let's take a break, hit the can, grab a drink, and we'll be back to discuss Robert Blake on this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. Final clap on 3. 1, 2, 3. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. Of course, we're discussing Robert Blake. Here's what I got to tell you. I've always known roundabout bits about this case, but I've never known the full
Sure.
story. So this was honestly a thrill for me. And the fact that there's so many other true crime adjacent cases is truly.
It is wild how many that came up.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm going to dive into this because, quite frankly, I want to get to the end to speculate
Sure.
about all of that. Um, okay. The fact that this isn't even about the Blake case. The Clutters, right? The Clutter family.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that that word of that killing came out, and then a guy at prison was like, "I know who did it," and he was right.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, God bless him for coming forward and going to the warden and being like, "I know who killed this whole family. It is unfortunately
My
someone that I
fault.
told about them."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just
I
wild to me.
There has to be some level of guilt of like, I didn't mean for that to happen. He should pay
Yeah.
for his crimes kind of a thing. But kudos to him for saying anything.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, I really would like to watch Helltown If there's a way we can get a hold of that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, we can
Uh,
look into it.
well, I mean the fact that it was like written by him as well,
Yeah. And when
I'd
you
like to
say
know.
things like, it's only smoke and mirrors, I can only imagine the dramatic things that he says in that show.
Yeah, it does feel like again, it felt like he was maybe trying to live his characters in real life. I'll get to that in a
Mm.
minute.
Oh,
Um, okay, hold on. So the case, John List, that case, we've talked about that before. Was it in the
yeah.
episode of Unsolved Mysteries with the French guy who killed
I
his whole
think
family?
so. I
I think
think
it
so.
was because it was a very similar case.
Yes.
Um,
Like the
my
dad, like
question,
killing his entire family and then ducking town. Bastards.
my question about John List is, he said that he was saving their souls essentially, and that he couldn't commit suicide to join them because then he'd go to hell.
Yeah.
Here's my question: in what God court of law is suicide wrong, but murder is okay?
It's, I mean, I honestly think it was just the shittiest excuse because then
Yeah,
later he
just
was like, I had to do it because of financial problems.
okay, there we go.
But then it's like he
Yeah,
later remarried. So it's like if you were
piece of
really
shit.
waiting your life out, praying for death to come so you could go to heaven to be reunited with your family, what about your new wife?
Bullshit. And
Yeah,
I guess you could argue like, well, suicide you can't repent for. I guess murders you could repent for and then Jesus is supposed to forgive you or whatever. So I guess that's the difference. I'm just trying to get ahead of the
sure.
comments.
Sure.
But my point is that it was bullshit and it's proof that it's bullshit if he later said it was for financial reasons and then he remarried somebody else. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I could see it being financial and it was just like they're running out of money, he can't afford this lifestyle anymore. Then just fucking leave.
Well, you know what I
Leave
find
your family
fascinating
then.
is there is this cross section of male killers who the family annihilators who
Mm.
it's like they don't want it anymore, but they don't want anyone else to have it. Like it's
Um,
easy, and that's terrifying to me. The idea that it's like
yeah,
it's easier for me to brutally murder my entire family than just ask for a divorce. Like that is so scary. The fact
it's
that he
dark,
also went to his oldest son's soccer game before taking him home and killing him.
right?
It's so dark.
He stopped and had food in the middle of it. I just don't even know how to handle that.
I mean, I think for me, the fact that as a single person,
Sure.
when you hear stories about like this, where it's like they had obviously been together for what, going on 20 years? I mean, if they had teenage
16-year-old
kids,
kids. Yeah, yeah.
and then one day he just kills you and your whole family, like that just, if there's ever been any sort of like stay alone forever, like those are the moments, right? Where it's like you never
Mhm.
really know anybody, and is it worth it?
Oh, yeah, like it's a horror show all around. And again, it's just the fact that he was so like he planned it out. He thought to like cancel everything. He turned the temperature down
Yeah.
at the house. Like he thought of all these things and then just fucked off and had a whole new life for like 18 years. What a piece of shit. Again, if you want to leave, you're a piece of shit for up and leaving, but you're a better piece of shit than if you murder your entire family and you get to continue life. Like he lived
Yeah.
to his 80s and he killed like teenage kids?
It's
Fuck off,
so
man.
sad.
Yeah.
Then you brought up O.J. Simpson, and of course
Uh,
referenced that the Nicole Brown Simpson episode of the podcast. May I also say, if you'd like even more information regarding that case, visit episode 93, the Marcia Clark
oh, yeah,
prosecutor
yeah.
profile episode of True Crime and Cocktails.
Oh my God. Great call.
Yes.
Great call.
I also love that I am becoming an old biddy because I accidentally did not write down Marcia Clark in my notes, but rather Marcia Cross and two different ladies.
Look, I'm obsessed with you as an old biddy. Again, you as an old biddy, you're my retirement plan.
Yep.
These two old biddies, which might be the name of our podcast, our retirement podcast when we
Yeah.
start. It's you and me, baby. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it. We spent so many years living apart. We deserve our final years to be living together.
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
not forcing the same house. I'm just saying same
Forcing.
town and then it's
I
going to be the same
I
house.
assumed we'd be sharing a bed,
Honestly, same.
right?
Same.
It would be like we do in a hotel. There's an eating bed
Yep.
and there's a sleeping bed. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, because you can't get crumbs in the sleeping bed.
What I think we
Mm.
need is you know how you see sometimes those stories of like the family, the co-sleeping families, and they
Yes.
have those giant beds, like they've put together two kings,
Yep.
and it's just a massive room, and then there's all the animals. That's what I
That's what
want
we
for
need.
us.
Yeah.
Will people
Yeah.
think that we're, a grosser, weirder version of Grey Gardens because we were also sharing a bed together? Possibly. You know what I say to that? I
Yeah.
invite you to ride the toe of my boot.
Let us have joy. We've been waiting so long for that specific joy just to be there.
Yes.
Let us have our moments.
Let us have our time. It's nobody's business whose bed we're sleeping in. Sure, the
Correct.
local kids are going to be like those old two lesbos, but that's why we're
Yeah.
not going to have neighbors.
Well, and that's also not the first time we've been called lesbians.
And it won't be the last.
Correct.
It's an
Look,
honor.
when you're two teenage girls going to a mall and one of you tries on a pair of Birkenstocks and the other is like, we should get them. And then the one goes, they're too expensive. And the other says, what my baby wants, my baby gets. You have it coming to you that people are going to call you a romantic couple.
Yeah, we've been
And
mistaken as a couple for years. And again, like I said, it's my honor. It's my
oh yeah,
honor.
I am. It's just flattery, pure flattery.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That I could land her, get out.
Well, that brings me seamlessly into this next note I wrote down, which is Bonnie marrying her first cousin.
I have a lot of questions
Yeah,
about
and they had
that.
two children together. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
I love that I second guessed
And
myself.
then he raised her third.
Well, I'm going to skip ahead for a second because that transitions nicely. Here's the one thing I don't understand about Robert Blake. There's many.
Sure.
Him forcing himself to marry her because she's pregnant and then being like, if either of us chooses to leave the other, then the other person gets full custody. Very strange to me. Like, I understand that he was an old school guy, but it was the 2000s. Like, it's not like we're talking about a case that happened in the 1940s or something where it was a different world.
Sure.
Here's my question. Bonnie had no problem seemingly just giving a child to an ex that she had
Sure.
to raise, right? I don't know that she would have fought Robert that hard if he was like, I don't want you, but I want the baby. Like, part of me wonders if she would have just given it to him. But I think the darker thing is that what it feels like to me is he wanted a mother to raise the infant. And then once it wasn't an infant anymore, he was like, okay, I don't have any need for this anymore. Speculating, right?
It's also interesting that one of the things in that document she had to sign was he's allowed visitation.
For his own child?
Yeah, you're married. Like that was your big, like you were like, I'm allowed he was allowed monitored visits with the baby. So I
So
don't,
weird.
which is a weird way of wording it. And it's like, does that mean you get to go, like, that means you're essentially just visits? Like, is that what that's supposed to mean? Is like, I
Well, they
get
also
monitored visits and that's
they
it.
also live in the same property. Like, that's
Yeah.
such a bizarre thing to even say.
Yeah. Again, it's so wild to be like, whoever leaves this marriage, the other person gets the kid. Almost so like I'm surprised that he wouldn't be like, well, she's never leaving this marriage. So it's just,
Yeah,
especially because he always assumed that she was marrying him because he was a celebrity.
right,
And so it's like, so why would she ever leave you then? If that's
right.
what she wanted?
But it feels like he just wanted the child. He just didn't want to do the work.
Oh, that sounds right.
Well, that's my speculation. Now, you started getting into this story about Cheyenne Brando. I'm assuming that's her last name,
Yes.
and Dag. And as you were telling this, I was screaming internally because I don't know if you remember this, but Lauren Ash has a patented Lauren Ash Celebrity Homes tour that she gives anytime anyone visits her in LA.
Yes.
Christy has obviously been on the tour. I've given
Of
it many times.
course.
People are always skeptical, and by the end, they say that was so much fun. So
A
I basically
hundred
just
percent.
I went on a celebrity homes tour years ago. I at the time, much more so than now, had a near photographic memory. I memorized what I could. I wrote it down. I researched. So I've given this tour many times. And one of the houses on the tour is Marlon Brando's house that he had to sell to cover his son's legal bills.
Oh,
So
there it
as
is.
you went into this, I literally wrote down in all caps, I know this story, except here's the thing. No, I don't. The only thing I ever knew was that Marlon Brando's son murdered his sister's boyfriend, and
Yeah.
then Marlon Brando had to sell his house to pay for the lawyer fees. That's all I knew. So getting all of this extra context, I was titillated.
I like that. And I just want to say, I may not remember a lot of things, but I remember that tour and I remember the praise you gave me because I got very excited when you showed me Ben Vereen's home. And you were like, a lot of people don't get Ben Vereen. And you were
Yes,
like, you know who that is, right? And I was like, I do. And you were like, a lot of people don't. And I was like,
it's true. He lives on the same street as Kathy Bates, former home of B. Arthur and former home of Jim Carrey and Jenny McCarthy. Again,
oh,
I can't tell you what I did yesterday, but I could do that tour in my sleep. Anyway,
it was a great tour.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Tukey. How do you spell that?
Tuki.
That's what I thought. But then I thought, is it like a Canadian toque? Toque.
Oh, sure. No, I've heard he's a model now. I don't know.
Well, I have to find out. Um, okay. Next thing that made me titillated. You
Yeah.
mentioned Vitello's. I've been.
Oh, do you know the layout?
I do know the layout. So I have been
Yes.
there in person. This is a thrill for me. So the way that I'm to understand it, now granted, when I went to that restaurant, I did sit on the front patio, but the person that I was with, he was like, "Did you know this is where the Robert Blake murder happened?" I said, "No." He was like, "I'll show you." So listen, I'm taking his word. I'm not saying that it's necessarily correct, but the way it looked to me was the car was parked kind of like around the back of the building, kind of like in a little
Sure.
alley was where he described it as. Again, could be wrong, but this is
Interesting.
what he had
Okay.
showed me. So if that's the case, it's a bit of a hike, or not a hike, but it's far enough to go around. It's not so far, to be honest with you, it's not so far that I would go, oh God, this is going to take me too long. She could be in danger. I could see it being like, oh, I'll just run and pop back in. But what I will say is there is no that it's like it's like I don't know that it would be easy to see him. That being said, unless he went in a back door, and if he went in a back door, he'd be getting in and out even quicker. But if he didn't go in the back door, I don't know how anybody wouldn't see him come in. I just
Yeah.
don't. I feel like somebody would have seen him because if my memory serves and I could be wrong, I think it's one storefront in like I believe it's not right on the corner. So I believe that there was another business at the corner and they would have had to walk around that, meaning there was even more of a chance that somebody else could have seen him from
Sure.
that's in that other storefront. I could be wrong. This is what I see in my mind's eye, and I didn't think to look it up on the break. All of this being said, here's what I want to say.
Yes.
I left my gun in the restaurant. There's part of me that believes it's real, and I'm going to tell you why. That is the worst alibi I've ever heard in my entire
Yeah.
life. I
Yeah.
left my wallet in the restaurant. I left my At that time, could have a cell phone. 2001,
Yeah.
I left my anything else. Anything else would be more believable and plausible and understandable than my gun. It
Yeah.
feels to me like that might be real because it's absurd.
Yeah.
Like 2001 in Studio City, California, I don't think a lot of people were walking around with guns. I could be wrong. In my
Sure.
experience, it's not an open carry state as far as I know. I've never seen anyone walking around with a gun in the 13 years I lived in LA, but
Sure.
other places in the States, totally plausible. But again, I left my gun in the restaurant. It's so
Mhm.
weird. So let's go for a second into believing that he is innocent. Go with me for a second.
Sure.
The fact that he was so disingenuous in his grief,
Yeah.
part of me wonders if he genuinely felt nothing due to a few things. One, it didn't seem like he really loved this woman. It felt like he was marrying her simply because of the pregnancy. I think that's safe to say. Two, he claims that he was not hugged until he was like 8 or 9 years old by a stranger.
Right.
I believe it is possible that in this moment where he didn't know how to react and or didn't feel anything at all, he could have gone, fuck, you have to react, man, or you're gonna look super fucking suspicious. And then in his attempt to perform, it got worse and worse.
He overcorrected.
He
Yeah.
overcorrected. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is proof that he's innocent? I do. Only in I think that this is so wild that if he really is that sloppy, it's incredible that there wasn't more evidence.
Great point.
Now, do I think it's possible that all of this could be true and he hired someone? Yeah, I still think that's possible. But again, I know what I'll do, buddy. I will bring my gun to dinner and then accidentally leave it in the restaurant and then have to run back. There's also a
Mhm.
huge area of error where somebody could have been like, "Oh my God, your gun." Like
Sure.
that's such a fucking wild swing. To me, you leave your wallet. Why am I giving I'm not suggesting anybody use this. But if
Correct.
it's such an easy thing because a wallet's smaller,
Yep.
you can
More
toss it onto the
reasonable
floor.
to take. Yep.
He could have it fall out of his pocket onto the floor so that under the table she doesn't see it, no one else sees it. Like I just think that the gun to me makes it feel like he's innocent, which I know might sound crazy, but it just doesn't make any sense. Now, the gun, the murder weapon, no prints, serial number filed off, collector's item, potentially of Nazi memorabilia. I believe that could be his gun. I believe any it could be anybody's gun is part of the problem though, right? Like a non-registered no serial number gun could be anybody's. The fact that it was like dirty and in oil makes me feel like they did that to get fingerprints off of it potentially. My problem is the timeline. And my problem with the timeline is twofold. One, what are the chances in my opinion, maximum 90 seconds to 2 minutes it's going to take him to run back in and run back out? Maybe 3 minutes at most. What are the chances that in those 3 minutes she is a random victim of gun violence? Feels very low to me.
Yeah.
Similarly, what are the chances that he and whoever he's working with could time it that precisely? I guess it would be somebody that was physically out there. They make eye contact. He goes, I'm going to go, I'll be right back. And then it happens. Because the final thing I'm going to say, unfortunately, what am I talking about? He's a madman. The one thing I'm going to say against Robert being innocent is if this was a crime committed by someone else she had wronged, either the specific person or someone was hired by someone else she had wronged in her past. How would they have timed that so well? They wouldn't have known that he was accidentally going to forget his gun in the restaurant. Was their plan to kill him too?
Interesting.
Then, here's the other thing. Was there a silencer on that gun? I don't
Right.
understand, given what I know of Vitello's, I don't understand
Mhm.
how you wouldn't have heard, people all around wouldn't have heard it.
Right.
Gunshots, which I also can say earnestly, I have heard in Los Angeles many, many times.
Sure.
They're very fucking loud. Like you can hear it from a
Mm,
distance. And you also learn over time what the difference is between the sound of a gunshot and like a car backfiring or like a dumpster lid or like
right.
there's a
Right.
specific sound to it that you can tell. To me, like everybody in that restaurant freaking out? Like how loud was the music? These are questions
Great
you don't know the answer
question.
to, but you know what I'm saying? It's just like I am perplexed more and more by the details of this crime. Another thing that perplexes me. They go to the car.
Yep.
Uh-oh, me forgot me gunno. She gets into the car, rolls down the window, and then someone comes pop pop.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, it makes no sense, but I like me forgetto my gunno. I liked that a lot.
Well, I also wrote down packing heat. Thank you for packing heat. That was great. But you know what I'm saying? Why did she roll down the
Mhm.
window? This is the other thing. I mean, what time of year was it? I mean, it's hot in LA all the time, but it's also after
May.
dark. It's May.
Beginning of May.
I mean, May Gray. May is a time in LA that's what the nickname is, May Gray. And June Gloom. June Gloom is the
Oh,
official
of
one. May
course.
Gray is one that friend of the podcast, Leslie Seiler, I feel like, and her husband may have come up with. But like it's always gloomy in the mornings, then in the afternoon it gets nicer. By evening, though, after dark, I wouldn't guess it would be hot, hot. I guess maybe, I don't know. How did she roll? So does she have the keys?
I don't know.
But you know what I'm saying? Like there's so many
Yeah,
unanswered questions because it's such a short amount of time. Even if it took him 5 minutes to get there and back, I don't believe that would be necessary. Let's
sure.
say they parked further than the guy I know thought they did. It's a very short amount of time to pull off that kind of crime.
Yeah.
We know this. We've done this long enough. Like when you're talking less than 5 minutes to successfully murder someone with no witnesses,
Yeah.
because those streets that are around there are very residential. So the
Right.
street Tahunga that it's on is all these cute little shops and coffee shops and restaurants and all of that. But it's literally just the strip. And then if you literally walk either way, north or south, it's residential.
Oh, sure.
So there's also the risk. Is somebody nearby gonna see you? Is somebody gonna be walking their dog? It was early enough at night. How did they pull it off with no witnesses? That was a risk.
100%.
Um, the details of him losing lawyers for doing TV interviews, again, I think that's one of the most insane things I've ever heard on this show. And we've heard a lot, but that is the most cuckoo bananas thing I feel like I've ever heard. Almost as cuckoo bananas as then the defense lawyer's computer is randomly stolen. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
This thing reads like a movie. This thing reads like
Yeah.
Helltown.
Thank you so much. Well, fingers crossed, we'll find out.
If I have anything to do about it. Um, I just wrote down Teen Witch rap battle.
Have you ever seen
No, but
that
I
that
can't. I
clip?
can't
Oh,
wait.
it's bad because the whole thing is like these guys are like
Mm.
super cool, and they're hanging out having a rap battle, and it's bad. Like it's so bad. And then the Teen Witch, who I believe is Robin Lively, and her friend Polly, they come up, and Polly has a crush on Rhett, and she's like, I could never talk to him. I don't know. So she uses her witch powers to give her friend the confidence to go, and they have a of a back and forth to be like, you think you're all that? And it's like, well, check me out. And it's bad. Like I just can't believe that was a movie.
Do you remember the time that I told you that I stuck up for myself with to one of my childhood bullies?
Yeah.
And I said, you think you're so cool, but reality check, you're not. But when I said reality check, I went to point at my head, but I was so nervous that I accidentally stuck my own finger in my ear.
Yeah.
It really undercut it.
It did. Um, but you still stood up for yourself.
Yeah, if
And
only
it
I could
didn't
have rap
involve a
battled.
rap battle. Well,
Well,
I don't know. It's bad. I may have you look it up when we're done here because
I can't wait. I
it's
can't wait.
something else. Yeah.
The last thing I want to say, him writing an autobiography called Tales of a Rascal, I don't appreciate him calling himself a rascal. I think that that's only something that we're allowed to call ourselves and we're allowed to call other people with like,
Sure.
I don't like it.
I
Because
assume it
I
was
think
in
he was more of a
reference to
bad
Little.
man. You know what I mean?
Yes, I assume it was in reference to Little Rascals
Oh, shit.
from his childhood.
I should give him
To
a
be
break.
fair, though, it was more often called Our Gang.
Right.
So,
I bring it back. Fuck you, Blake. No need. He's dead. There's no reason. I don't know though. Ultimately, I don't know. I don't know where I land on this. I think the idea of it being a completely random crime feels very
unlikely.
implausible. I think the
Yeah.
idea of it being a hit that was planned by someone other than Robert Blake feels also hard to believe because of the timing and all of that. But then at the same time, I'm like, this man, if this man bungled his way to getting away with murder by forgetting his gun in a
Oh
restaurant,
my
I don't know what
God.
to say.
Yeah, the whole thing is madness because I don't know that I think he shot her. I'm more likely to believe he may have hired someone,
Yeah,
but again, going back for your gun feels insane. But just two more things. One, I Googled Tukey Brando. I'll
great.
put this photo in the case file, but just to be clear,
Oh,
that face is chiseled in a
it
way.
is.
I don't
It
know
is.
how to handle it. Secondly, you referenced me saying packing heat.
Yeah,
And I want you to know, and I'm sure I've said this many times, um, that was a specific like inside joke to myself because it is my favorite. It's involved in my favorite scene from the TV show Frasier, which is wild because I went through a phase where I watched the entirety of Frasier, and I always felt it was a little too pretentious for me, and I didn't love it, but I loved Niles. I mean, I guess I loved the dad because I had a crush on John Mahoney. Neither here nor there. The point is, there is a scene with Niles and Frasier, and Niles, for some reason, I can't remember why, he gets a gun. And he's walking around like he's a new sheriff in town. And he comes up, and Frasier's, of course, very like, what's happening? And he's like, I'm packing heat. And Frasier, in that very monotone, cool tone, he just goes, packing heat. Niles, you couldn't pack a lunch. And that makes me laugh so hard. Like I, in that moment, had to pause. I was laughing so hard. Is it that funny? No. It just made me laugh so hard that it has stayed in my soul. So I knew if I wrote packing heat in my head, I'm going to hear him say, you couldn't pack a lunch. And it's just going to make me laugh so hard.
well, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, packing heat couldn't pack a lunch. It just the way he says it, fuck, it made me laugh. It was worth the rewatch. And that was so many seasons.
Yeah.
So much opera.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Well, listen, Christy Oxborrow, this was a fantastic wild ride. 12 out of 10. We don't deserve you. So much true
Oh,
crime, so little time. Thank you for your work.
what an honor. I was jazzed every time they another case came up. I'm like, here we go again.
I love it. And we thank you, dear listeners, for coming with us on this wild ride. If you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at True Crime and Cocktails. On Twitter at Not Detectives. If you'd like some bonus content, go to patreon.com/, True Crime and Cocktails to learn more about our subscription-based service over there. And of course, the only place for official True Crime and Cocktails merch is, of course, truecrewmerch.com. So check that out as well if you're interested. Christy, do you want to tell the people about next week's episode?
On the next True Crime and Cocktails, Reverend Willie Maxwell.
I know nothing about Willie and can't wait to learn more. Christy, do you want to tell the people? Do you want to say goodnight to the people?
Aw, good night, Ben Vereen.
Oh, Charlie Sheen, Ben Vereen, shrink to the size of a lima bean. Good night to the brain. Pinky and the brain.